The Nightly Business Report.
Good evening. Tonight, the International Finance Corporation signals its support in Sri Lanka's journey to economic stabilization and sustainable growth, meets President Wickremesinghe and sign agreements worth 3.2 billion rupees in healthcare investments. Bankers warn Sri Lankans of a heightened online scam attempt and release guidelines on how to stay safe. Emirates Airlines says that Colombo will be among the first destinations to be served by its state-of-the-art A350 aircraft, which will enter service in September 2024. And the week begins with a downward trajectory as the Colombo Bourse ends in the red.
From Studio 24, here's Sina Mayadune.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Concluding a two-day visit, the International Finance Corporation's Vice President for Asia Pacific, Riccardo Politi, signaled IFC's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's ongoing reforms and growth agenda. He also emphasized the importance of private sector-led development for inclusive economic growth.
The visit served as an opportunity for Politi to engage with key stakeholders, including meeting the President of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, Minister of Power and Energy Honorable Kanchana Wijesekara, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, private sector representatives and development partners. Politi stated that Sri Lanka has immense potential. As the country recovers from the unprecedented economic crisis, it is crucial to maintain the momentum and continue implementing key measures to support the transition from economic stabilization to sustainable growth. Moreover, Politi signed an agreement for new equity investment in Sunshine Healthcare Lanka Limited to support the company in its growth plan to increase its pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity and expand the pharmaceutical retail footprint.
Sri Lanka's apparel exporters have appealed to the central bank to end a mandatory conversion rule for exports proceeds as the rupee is allowed to appreciate with deflationary monetary policy.
A request to end a ban on shifting dollar proceeds from one bank to another, which was slapped when the central bank was conducting inflationary policy leading to forex shortages, has been removed. The Joint Apparel Exporters Association said that the exporters recognized the central bank's positive move to meet their request to remove restrictions on the movement of foreign exchange between commercial banks. They also said that the export sector has weathered turbulent times and continues to reinvent itself to convert to a lean manufacturing, diversify its offerings, and to actively pursue new markets. Sri Lanka's central bank is currently conducting deflationary domestic operations, triggering a balance of payment surplus.
With the drama over entry visa issuance creating a ruckus, the government has now moved to issue a cheaper 30-day single entry visa. This was announced by the Minister of Public Security, Derana, at a special media briefing today.
Earlier, the tourist sector was hit by $100 visa and visa processing was shifted to a private contractor. Sri Lanka issued a multiple entry visa at $50 final price before the shift to IVS GBS VFS Global Group, when the visa cost $100.77 with an $18.50 fee and convenience fee on the top of $75 gasset price.
The visa increase is only about $25. Now before this, say if it was $50, before this, when a family of 4 comes, they pay $200. Right? So that's why when people run messages like this, they show as if suddenly you have to pay $300. No. All these years they would have been paying $200 or $250. That has become $300. And any country it's like that. Now I was checking with Malaysia yesterday. They have increased their visa fee. Right? Then I checked about Bali. This is some destination our people go to. Bali, all these days, even for Sri Lankans, it was on arrival visa. But now they have changed. Sri Lankans have to obtain a visa before you come. So in every country, there are changes, there are increases according to the cost or according to what the country needs, right? So it's not a case of, increasing $200, $300. Now like what I told you at the start, they are talking about the $75, that is the 6 months double entry visa. The single entry 30 days will be 50.
It is not clear whether the IVS GBF VFS Global Group will also charge an $18.50 fee and the convenience fee on the top $50. The tourist industry has said fast-growing East Asian nations charge lower fees of the around $25 to $40 or no fee for tourists and are getting millions of visitors. Sri Lanka may miss the 2.3 million tourism target for 2024 as a result of the new website.
Sri Lanka Banks Association, Lanka Pay and Finxert are urging the public to be cautious about rampant online financial scams. The unified group released a statement saying that the scams are disguised as attractive online offers, leading mobile device users to inadvertently click on unknown links and download malicious apps and files.
This action grants scammers complete access to the mobile device, enabling them to control it remotely. Once the fraudsters take control of the mobile device, they have easy access to bank payment apps that are installed on the device, leading to theft from bank accounts and payment cards accessed via the mobile device. To prevent falling victim to such scams, the bankers group advised the public to exercise caution and follow these guidelines. Beware of online advertisement offering unrealistic deals. Avoid clicking on links and downloading apps or files from unknown sources. Exit from unknown and unfamiliar groups on social media platforms or online messaging platforms to which you added without consent. Avoid clicking on links shared via such groups. Refrain from saving passwords on your device. Visit www.adadarana.lk for the whole list of advices provided by the Bankers Group in order to stay safe online.
The Sri Lanka United National Business Alliance warns that if the government allows the continuation of the parade law, there is a possibility that the whole SME sector will be whipped off while a monopoly of blue chip companies will take over. Its chairwoman, Tanya Abesundara, says it's vital that the government interjects and provides solutions that would save the small and medium enterprises of the country.
This Parata thing, when the private banks took over this, they became a monster. Even to date, the government entities, when you are going into Parata, they have a bit of a more of a soft corner, not trying to acquire. But these private banks are totally different. They first thing is because within the directorate, they can send in a circulation and have the authority to go auction your property. So it's not you have to go into a court of law. That's why we sign all documents. So when this happens, when we go into Parata, we say MSME or SME company, who is going to buy the property? But most of the SME companies are now in a very bad situation. I don't have funding to go buy somebody else's business. So obviously this will be acquired by the big fish.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. It will be a monopoly that will be created within few entities to run the country. So it will be, end of the day, these people will decide who will be running the country end of the day.
A ferry service between Nagapatnam and Jaffna will start on the 13th of this month with both tax breaks and subsidies to bring costs down. The Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka announcing the services said that India will subsidize operating costs and charges at the Nagapatnam port equivalent to 25 million Sri Lankan rupees a month for the next year, while Sri Lanka will also reduce its embarkation tax. The statement further said that strengthening maritime connectivity between India and Sri Lanka was a vital component of the vision document for economic partnership jointly adopted during the President of Sri Lanka's visit to India in July 2023. The ferry service will be operated by In3 Ferry Services, a private operator selected by the Shipping Corporation of India in consultation with the government of Sri Lanka. We'll go for a short commercial break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Let's take you to the Colombo Stock Exchange and get you the latest data on how the market performed at the beginning of the week. Recording a negative kickoff at the beginning of this week, both indices ended in the red today. The all share price index fell 0.23%, while the S&P SL20 index dropped down by 0.65%. Let's break down the data for you, and for that, let's go to Richard Pereira from SC Securities standing by.
Yes, today the all share price index closed at 12,376 points with a decline of 28 points, and the S&P SL20 index closed at 3,648 points with a decline of 23 points. Both indexes recorded a marginal decline as investors were keen on realizing profits in the banking sector. The turnover was recorded at 2.134 billion with a shares traded volume of 135 million. The top 5 gainers of the day were Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka, SMB Leasing, Citizens Development Business Finance, Muller and Phipps, and Ambient Capital, while the top losers were Industrial Asphalt Ceylon, Abans Electricals, Renuka Agri-Foods, and Browns Beach Hotels. Significant crossings of the day were 279,300 shares of John Keel's Holdings with a turnover of 56 million, 300,000 shares of National Development Bank with a turnover of 23 million, 4 million shares of Sierra Cables with a turnover of 50 million, and 1 million shares of Access Engineering with a turnover of 25 million.
Will the negative start impact the Colombo Stock Exchange throughout this week? Well, here's Tarusha Ashokar from First Capital Holdings with a market forecast for this week.
Stock market witnessed a volatile trading session last week following a sustained uptrend. So we expect this volatility to persist into the coming week due to uncertainties surrounding the finalization of debt restructuring talks and political instability. However, despite these challenges, a positive sentiment is expected to prevail as companies are projected to report year-on-year growth in their quarterly earnings in the coming week. Also, the declining interest rates with the AWPLR remaining around the 10% mark is likely to further drive the fund flows into the equity market as capital gains are exempt from income tax. So furthermore, bullish sentiment is also anticipated, supported by the World Bank's forecast of a positive 2.3% GDP growth for Sri Lanka in 2024. In terms of participation, as we expect a volatile trading week, both retail and high net worth investors are expected to mirror the levels seen in the previous week.
Gold prices rose in Asian trade today, capitalizing on a recent drop in the dollar. As softer than expected U.S. payroll data saw traders increase bets on eventual interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. But gains in gold were held back by improved risk appetite in the wake of Friday's payrolls data, as investors pivoted into more risk-exposed assets such as stocks. Spot gold rose 0.4% to $2,310.05 an ounce, while gold futures expiring in June rose 0.4% to $2,318.70 an ounce. Gains in gold also came after the yellow metal fell sharply from record highs over the past 3 weeks. But the yellow metal took some relief from a drop in the dollar, which lost about 0.8% last week. Oil futures climbed today as well after Saudi Arabia hiked June crude prices for most regions, and as the prospect of a Gaza ceasefire deal appeared slim, renewing fears the Israel-Hamas conflict could still widen in the key oil-producing region. Brent crude futures gained 73 cents or 0.9% to $83.69 a barrel, and while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at $78.95 a barrel, up 84 cents or 1.1%. But oil prices were nursing sharp losses from the prior week on the prospect of worsening demand, especially as the U.S. economy and its peers appeared to be slowing amid sticky inflation and high interest rates. The rupee has depreciated slightly against the US dollar at commercial banks in Sri Lanka today compared to last week. According to People's Bank, the buying and selling rates of the US dollar have increased from 291 rupees and 49 cents to 291 rupees and 89 cents, and from 301 rupees and 36 cents to 301 rupees and 77 cents respectively. At Commercial Bank, the buying rate of the US dollar has increased from 290 rupees and 99 cents to 291 rupees and 49 cents, and the selling rate has also increased from 300 rupees and 25 cents to 300 rupees and 75 cents. Let's take a look at how the rupee performed against the other currencies. Let's go for a short commercial break now, and when we are back, let's have a look at the corporate world. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back. Adani Green Energy Limited, one of the world's fastest growing pure-play renewable energy companies, recently announced financial results for the quarter and the year ending 31st March 2024. The company is developing the world's largest renewable energy project of 30,000 megawatts on barren land at Khavda in Gujarat, India.
Spread across 538 square kilometers, it is 5 times the size of Paris. Within just 12 months of breaking ground, AGEL has operationalized 2,000 megawatts. The sale of energy increased by 47% year-on-year to 21,806 million units in FY24, primarily backed by strong capacity addition, consistent solar CUF, and improved wind and hybrid CUF. The solar portfolio CUF remained consistent at 24.5 in FY24 with improved plant and grid availability, while the solar irradiation was relatively lower. The wind portfolio CUF improved by 420 BPS year-on-year to 29.4% in FY24 with improved plant availability, grid availability and wind speed.
Emirates announced today that Colombo will be among the first set of destinations to be served by Emirates A350 aircraft entering service in September 2024. Emirates' fourth daily service to Colombo EK654 and EK655 will be served by the A350 from 1st of January 2025.
With 10 new A350s expected to join the Emirates fleet by 31st March 2025, the airline plans to deploy its latest aircraft type to 9 destinations in the coming months, offering customers its latest signature cabin experience. These first 10 Emirates A350 aircraft will offer 3 cabin classes with 32 next-generation business class seats, 21 seats in the premium economy, and 259 generously pitched economy class seats. All of these aircraft are earmarked to serve the short to medium-haul cities on the Emirates network, with Bahrain as its inaugural destination. Emirates will announce more destinations in the coming months as new aircraft join its fleet.
Janashakti Group has appointed Minat Pereira and Vishnu Balachandran as independent non-executive directors to the company's board of directors. Minat Pereira has a distinguished career as a former group finance director of the MJF Group, where she played a pivotal role in managing finance functions across a vertically integrated tea operation. Vishnu Balachandran has an extensive background in investing banking, having served as the head of investment banking at Capital Alliance Partners Limited, a prominent investment bank in Sri Lanka. The Lanka Coffee Association is delighted to announce the highly anticipated 3rd edition of the Sri Lanka Coffee Festival in collaboration with Australia's Market Development Facility and Jetwing Hotels.
This announcement was made during a press conference convened by the LCA to unveil the exciting details of this year's festival. The Sri Lankan Coffee Festival has evolved into a premier event that celebrates the illustrious heritage of coffee in Sri Lanka, champions sustainable practices, and nurtures innovation within the industry. One of the highlights of the Sri Lankan Coffee Festival is the esteemed LCA Barista Championship. This championship not only brings together the best baristas from across the country, but also serves as a platform for them to demonstrate their expertise and passion for coffee. The third edition of the Sri Lankan Coffee Festival will feature 3 preliminary rounds in Jetwin Lake Dambul on the 17th of May, Jetwin Lighthouse Gaol on the 22nd of May, and Jetwin Colombo 7 on the 26th of May, culminating in the grand finale on the 6th of June at Gaol alongside the festival.
Sri Lanka's leading private sector bank HNB plc announced the successful achievement of the ISO 9001-2015 certification for its inward remittance or outward remittance and centralized operations departments. Involving a comprehensive review and documentation of processes, the certification process ensures alignment with ISO standards and best practices. HNB's centralized operations department, comprising approximately 200 skilled professionals, along with its inward and outward remittances departments, played a pivotal role in implementing and upholding these standards. Moving on to a short break now, this is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Most Asian stocks rose today, tracking strength in Wall Street as weak payrolls data sparked a resurgence in rate cut expectations, while Chinese markets returned from a long weekend with standout gains. Still, regional trading volumes were held back by market holidays in Japan and South Korea. China's Shanghai Shenzhen CSI 300 and Shanghai Composite indices rose 1.6% and 1.1% respectively, catching up to gains in their peers after a long weekend. Both indices were sitting at their highest level since early October after launching a stellar recovery over the past 2 months. Gains in mainland stocks helped spur some gains in Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, which was facing resistance after entering a bull market from February lows. Australia's Qantas Airways agreed to pay $79 million to settle a regulated lawsuit over the sale of thousands of tickets on already cancelled flights. This settlement attempts to end the airline's reputational crisis.
Australian airline Qantas Airways said on Monday it had agreed to pay a penalty worth $79 million to settle a lawsuit. The claim accused the airline giant of illegally selling thousands of tickets for flights that had already been cancelled. The fine is the largest ever faced by an Australian airline. As part of the settlement with Australia's Consumer Commission, the company will split $13 million between more than 86,000 customers who booked tickets on the so-called ghost flights and pay a $66 million fine instead of defending the lawsuit that it had previously vowed to fight. The penalty is subject to the approval of the Federal Court of Australia. CEO Vanessa Hudson said in a statement that, quote, "We recognise Qantas let down customers and fell short of our own standards." Qantas was sued last August by the Consumer Commission, which alleged that in some cases the airline's flights were on sale for weeks after they'd been cancelled. The company had argued that it faced similar challenges to airlines around the world, but the Commission said its actions broke consumer law. Qantas is also still waiting to learn how much it must pay nearly 1,700 ground handling staff it sacked in 2020 after a court found the job cuts were illegal, since they were intended to stop industrial action.
From a preliminary reading on U.S. consumer sentiment to bets the Bank of England could keep up playing the waiting game on rate cuts. Here are some stories to watch in business and finance the world over in the coming week.
From a snapshot of U.S. consumer sentiment to bets the BOE could keep up the waiting game. These are the stories to watch in business and finance in the coming week. The University of Michigan's preliminary reading on consumer sentiment lands on May 10th. It will give a snapshot of their inflation expectations and economic outlook. Months of stubborn inflation have threatened to disrupt the so-called Goldilocks narrative of resilient growth and cooling consumer prices that have helped drive stocks higher. Any signs in the report that higher prices are weighing on sentiment could encourage the Fed to keep rates elevated. Investors are scouring the globe for shelter from turbulence in U.S. markets shaken by the Fed's reluctance to cut rates. The S&P 500 dropped more than 4% in April. Treasuries had their worst month since September. Investors are trying to diversify, and London's FTSE 100, considered a hedge against the tech-dominated S&P, is near record highs. Stocks in high-growth India have logged 3 months of gains. But insulating a portfolio from Wall Street's swings is tough. The long-term correlation rate between Europe's Stoxx 600 and the S&P is almost 90%, investment bank Baird estimates.
Well, that'll do from all of us at the Nile Business Report. Thank you for joining, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, I'm Sina Mayadune. Have a good night.